Hi everyone, my name's Amany and I'm the Skills Development Lead for People RDC, and this is within the Health and Medical pillar of ARDC. So today we'll be discussing how you can all utilise your training know-how to develop specialised training as a non-subject matter expert with our expert panel members. Next slide, Ellen. Yeah, but first I'd like to begin by acknowledging the first educators of Australia, the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today. So in my case, I'm on Wurundjeri country, and we pay respects to our elders past, present and future and acknowledge the importance of Indigenous knowledge. And please feel free to state where you are in the chat. Yep. So just onto a little housekeeping. Just keep in mind this session is being recorded and will later be uploaded onto YouTube. Please feel free to turn on your video and don't be shy to use those Zoom reactions. We were just playing with them a little bit before and it was really fun. Also, you can questions can be asked by posting it onto the Zoom chat and we'll try and get to them at the end. Also this is our code of conduct. We do have an expectation for upholding a safe and respectful environment. We'll pop a link into the chat for more information, but if you have any concerns, please let us know. Next slide. So just to give you a little context into this series, especially those who are here for the first time, welcome. The National Skills Forum is a series that we run monthly, and it's a way for the trainer community to stay in touch between our annual skills summits. Next slide. Yep, and the purpose here is to facilitate knowledge and exchange across the trainer community, to showcase digital research skills and activities, and to share resources and best practice. So everyone here is welcome to contribute and share what's happening in your world and bring forward questions and challenges you may have. Something else? Yep, next slide. Yep, in this case, we'll be sharing our experiences, tips, recommendations, followed by an open Q&A session about developing training as a non-subject matter expert with our fantastic panel members, Katie, Hannan, John Brown, and Merian Lovelace-Tozer. So just to set the scene, as one trainer and one individual, you cannot be expected to know everything. And at some point, you might find yourself in a situation where you are asked to develop training in an area you have little experience in. Now, this may seem a little daunting, but we're here to tell you that this is fine, you can do this, and everyone on this panel has done this at some point. But to do this, you will need to work and leverage the experience of subject matter experts and utilize your training skills to showcase their knowledge to a learner audience. Next slide. Yep, so what is a subject matter expert? So an SME, for short, is someone who has specialised expertise and insights into a particular field or subject area. And these can include things like researchers, medical professionals, really anyone who is actively working in a specific field and has practical and technical knowledge of that field. So you might be thinking, why would we be asked to deliver training when we're not experts? Well, as I mentioned previously, you cannot be expected to know everything, but as a trainer, you do possess the skills that will enable you to communicate to learner audiences in an impactful way. And these are skills that an SME may not have. So in shorthand, the SME has the know-how of the field, but the trainer has the show-how. And just to give you some real-world experiences, the three images on the right reflect some of the experiences I've had working with SMEs. So the one on top, during the COVID lockdowns, I developed training for orthopedic surgeons, and during that time, they had started seeing a surge of patients with mental health issues. So if anyone's ever worked with surgeons would know that mental health is not really their area of expertise. So in this case, I had to work with SMEs the SMEs that I was working with were clinical psychologists and psychiatrists. And together we developed various forms of training utilizing their know-how in things like depression and anxiety, utilizing my skills in show-how to develop training across various delivery modes. Now, the bottom two examples I've included were instances where I was both an SME and a trainer. So things when I was delivering some training on various data software, and one time when I was co-coordinating a course for career development. Now, you can be an SME and a trainer, and there's plenty of overlap, which we will discuss later. But in both these instances, it was important to reach out to experts because having a diverse array of ideas will only work to enrich the training you are developing. But before moving on, I'm actually really interested to find out more about you. So by show of thumbs up reactions or in the chat, how many of you have actually developed or delivered training? Ooh, quite a few. Awesome. Fantastic. Okay, so second question. How many of you have worked with an SME to develop training? Okay. Awesome. So quite a few, not as many, but fantastic. Cool. Okay. So now I want to dive a little deeper into your sentiments, and we have a Mentimeter. So for those who haven't used Mentimeter before, you can either scan the QR code on the screen, which will take you to the Mentimeter poll, or you can go to menti.com and enter the code on the slide, and I'll give you guys a minute to do that. So once you're on, react with thumbs up or put it in the chat. Awesome. Thanks. A lot of people are on. Are we on Menti? Yeah, we'll just give that a minute. Yep, Liz has also put it in the chat as well. We'll just give that a minute.
Where? It's upside down. There it is.
Should we skip it if it's not working? Or is everyone on it?
Sorry, give me 1 sec. I should be able to share it again.
No worries.
All right. Thumbs up if you can see.
It's not live for me.
Yeah, I'll do it myself as well, see if it's working. Yeah, sometimes you can run into some technical issues when you're delivering training, which is completely normal. And yeah, it's got to keep calm. Yeah. So yeah, I've got the question, but it's not live. Oh, here we go. Yep, it should be live now. Awesome, great. So what I want to know, what we all want to know on the panel is what are you most anxious about when preparing for training? So even if you haven't developed training or if you haven't worked with an SME in the past, what is it that makes you looking like a dog? Oh, first cab up the rank is awesome. So I'm assuming you all know how word clouds work. So if for those of you that don't know how word cloud works, it pretty much it records the frequency of words given in the text, and the more frequently a word is used, the bigger it will be. But I'm assuming you all know what word clouds are. Diverse questions I can't answer. Yes, I think that is clarity. Imposter syndrome. Wow. Wrong words, getting something wrong. Yeah, I think a lot of us feel that way. You really don't want to look like you don't know what you're talking about. Timing. Yeah, there seems to be a general theme here. Technology failures. Thanks for that. That does happen, but you know, if you take it in stride, you can get over anything really. Timing. Yes. Timing's a good one. Technology failures, lacking credibility, feeling like a fraud. Again, yeah, those imposter syndrome themes are coming through as well. I can't help choking. Yeah, choking's not good, but it's okay. I mean, it's a well-timed is always fine. Being on the record, having no one attend.
Oh,
as long as you have the right people. Oh, sorry, what did you say, Sarah? That's okay. Expert participants, pushback, wasting people's time. Oh, it's never a waste of time. Cool. Panel, do you have anything you'd like to add to this?
Yeah, I have been through all of these things. Absolutely all of them. So I think it's just it's just something about being human.
Yeah.
And if you care about what you're doing, you will have some of these thoughts. But I really think you know, it's important to realize that this happens to everyone and practice breathing. Like, I recently did some media training and a group therapy session.
100%.
But working on those in the moment, like panic or anxiety moments, and thinking about it like a performance and being proud and strong and in yourself, and working on your breathing, those are the skills that are going to get you through any type of training. I used to be so shy that I couldn't even order a pizza over the phone. And now I've given conference presentations to really large rooms of people. So it's a skill and we can all learn it.
Awesome. Really, really great advice, Katie. So shall we move on? Cool. So, Ellen, if you could put the slides back up. Sorry, Ellen. Awesome. Thank you, Ellen. Yep, next slide. Awesome. Yeah, so that was really, really great. But today, the panelists, we're here to alleviate your anxieties, hopefully, that you may have, and give you some tips and recommendations and share some of our experiences. So, slides are gone. Anyway, I'll just talk to it. So basically, there are 3 overarching themes we'll be discussing today. And the first one will be about the importance of establishing relationships and collaborating effectively. The second is doing your homework to ensure training success. So knowing what general training skills you need and asking the right questions. The third will be focusing and preparing for the unexpected, which, as you can see, a lot of it happens. But yeah, things like troubleshooting, exploring alternative approaches and things like that. And this will be followed by questions we have received from when you registered, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. So first we'll have Katie Hannan, who you've all just heard from. And just a little introduction to her. She is a senior research data specialist in the research data services team at CSIRO. She works on a number of data management platforms, including the Data Access Portal, the Research Data Planner, and the Data Archive service. She's passionate about storytelling, cultural history projects, linking people with information, helping to facilitate organizational change and professional learning experiences. And she also has a background working in education, e-research, and projects. And now the floor is yours, Katie.
Thank you. I have 2 slides, and this is one of them where you can contact me or you can find out more about me. And the next slide is a question that I'm going to talk about some of the strategies that I have. So sometimes people come to me, or I am programming a training, maybe a couple of days workshop, or even just planning an hour-long session. And I might need to find somebody who knows about things that I don't know. So I work at a really large organization, and for people that also work at universities, or who do work at universities, so I'm at CSIRO, what I do is if I need to find somebody, or I would like to include somebody's perspective about something that I don't know, because it's impossible to know everything, what I do is I actually use some keywords and start searching through our people directory. And so I start looking for people to find is there somebody who's either done a presentation on something, so I can look through our publications repository, find out about that, or I go through the people directory with some search terms for their job titles or their little bios, and I contact them and ask them and say, this is what I'm doing. Do you have time for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or do you have some, let's say, a couple of takeaways that you were happy to provide into the training? Because I know that when people come to me to ask for what I might know about something, I feel really flattered that they've considered me and they want to include the things that I know into the work that they're doing and what they want to share with people. So that usually works really well. I find, I guess, that if you haven't been in an organisation very long and you're fortunate enough to work in the same location as people, then if you're in say at a university where you've got people on site, you have a better chance of meeting people or going to sessions that they might have run. So you can actually do that in person. So CSIRO is very distributed, so we're all over Australia. But we do have a couple of sort of internal communication tools. So we use something called Viva Engage. So sometimes they do have to build in some sort of, I guess, influencing or sort of, emotional hook, trust building. I usually find that people who have dogs, because I also have a dog, you can talk to them about their dog. I talk about my dog. And then you go, oh, hey, by the way, I'm doing this thing. And they go, oh, yeah, I'll help out this person who has a dog. So just finding, in that workplace relationship building example, finding that shared experience or common interest that can help you to win somebody over. So I don't know if that's something from a, influencing people and winning friends. Didn't somebody write a book about that? But that can really help me as well. It's just some way to I have biscuits hook, the new I have biscuits hook. Yeah. So, when you're doing something online, you can't actually say I have biscuits, but that would be nice. How do you get people into that room? But so, subject matter experts, that's one of my key things. But sometimes you might find that, okay, they're interested, but they don't have time. But maybe they know somebody who has some, is in that same subject area and they can recommend somebody. So you can always go back and ask them that. Or you can maybe ask them, well, what's that one key takeaway? If you wanted somebody to learn anything about what it is, and if you have one key takeaway from 5 different subject matter experts, because who says you have to just ask one, then you've got 5 different messages that you can build into your training. So those are some of the things that I use. Yes, How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's exactly the book, I think, Clarissa. So yeah, those are definitely some of the strategies that I use. I'd be really interested to hear from other people, maybe in the chat later or even now, about strategies that you've got that work for you, because, I'm always learning as well. And people are difficult. They are really difficult. So yeah, those are just my little takeaways that I use to try and connect in with different people. And I hope that helps.
No, that was great. Yeah, people, they can be complicated, especially when you're working with various different ideas and diverse thoughts. So, yeah, it makes it very hard to curate all of that. But yeah, as you said, just working with that, working through that, you'll be able to come up with something impactful.
Yeah, and I definitely think if you come to somebody and you say, hey, I've noticed you wrote a paper on X, Y, and Z, or you did a presentation about this at this thing, to show that you have that you've actually paid attention to the work that they've done. And that can really help if your organisation has implemented ORCID as well, and you've got it connected in, because then you can easily look them up. Yeah, it really helps.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Katie. Just because I'm mindful for time, we'll move on to John. So next we've got John Brown, who is a coordinator, research services at Curtin University Library. So he provides support and advice to researchers on research data management and related practices. His work includes developing training initiatives and helping researchers navigate institutional policies and systems to meet data requirements. So on to you, John.
Hey, thanks, Amany, and thanks, Katie. I guess for everyone, just so you know, we've kind of all been thrown into this session, and I actually hadn't heard all of the things that Katie was going to say. So it's wonderful to see how many of them overlap with the things that I'm going to talk about. So in case you think this is an echo chamber, it's not. So thanks for that. I was asked to talk about what general skills will good trainers bring to any topic, regardless of their expertise. We've got a ton of very experienced trainers in the room. I think I saw Aidan and Sarah and Melissa and some other people who I consider very, very good at the game. So we've got a bunch of people who have kind of said similar things in here. So when you have that sort of core set of skills, what are you going to expect no matter what you're talking? So that next slide. So I've kind of got a list of things here, and I did this to help myself. So the first thing is that hopefully an SME, a subject matter expert, will have a first-hand understanding of whatever the topic is, but trainers will be able to get a starting point, I guess, a foot in the door on whatever the topic is by competencies lists or skills lists. Hopefully we're all pretty familiar with these types of things, where it's a very structured, community-created outline of what the subject matter community thinks is important for that topic. And so this can really help us as non-experts to ensure that the training is on the right track and that we're hitting the big things that need to be discussed on that topic. Second thing is, and this one is a direct flick to Liz, a good trainer can follow a specific and defined training course. The carpentries is a really great example. You've got a very defined set of content in a very specific order, and as long as you know what's next, you don't need to be a level 60 Jedi at it. You can just make sure that you know the next couple of lessons and you're good to go. So following a structured curriculum is a really good way to do this. Thirdly, if you're training within an organization, hopefully all of us are, I suspect we all are, we probably have a good understanding of whatever the broader organizational context is that we're working in. So what are the big pieces of machinery that work in your institution? Who's the IT department? Who does this approval? Who is the HR department? And how do all of these things interlink? What does the finance department do on these things? How do these all sort of knit in together? And that can really be incredibly useful and something that maybe a subject matter expert hasn't engaged in with their own experience of their particular discipline. Next slide, thanks. So if any of you haven't seen it, a bunch of us in this call were involved in the 10 short course training fair. A new article in PLOS, 10 short course training principles. One of them is talking about good event processes. And so this is something that requires no subject matter expertise, and we should all theoretically be able to do by thinking ahead. An event should be logistically smooth with a good space, clear and accurate event details. People know how to get there, good directions. Amany, sorry to say, functioning tech. These things are things that theoretically most of us should be able to achieve without a PhD. The other things, we should be knowing what our learners are expecting and what we're trying to deliver to them. So we should know what those gaps are for them. Promotion, we should know our own internal channels of how we get this information to people, whether it's an email list, whether it's a Yammer, whatever it is, and appropriate billing for the training, for lack of a better term. How do we advertise this? What are we describing it as? Are people coming here expecting to get an introduction to the topic, or they're expecting a hands-on session? What are they expecting? And so all of these things are things that we can do to make sure the event goes well or the training event is effective that require no expertise. And thirdly, I think that, I can't remember, it might have been Philippa in the chat talked about, or someone talked about having not very many people and then you get a chance to learn. I think connected to that is effective feedback and iterative approaches. So in an ideal world, we're doing this training multiple times and we have a chance to improve on things as we go along, because that's really, really critical. We don't want to just deliver the training and then walk away and go like, oh, that was a nightmare, and then never learn anything from it. So hopefully we've got some systems in place that we can really get some good feedback. Thank you very much. Next slide. The next thing I was asked to talk about, and this links in with a bunch of the things that Katie said, was what are the most important questions to ask subject matter experts if you have very limited time with them? Thank you. Next slide. So the first thing is, before even talking to them, I would really, really recommend finding out, is this person like important and useful, or are they like important? Like, are you talking to a very high up, very senior researcher who is, you know, executing trillions of ARC grants? If yes, you probably need to make sure you're approaching them appropriately, understanding that. So that's the first thing, know who you're talking to. Second thing, have a look, and this was probably mentioned in a couple of things, look into their background, what their research has been like, what their training experience has been like, what their professional background has been like, maybe outside of the world of academia, and figure out what their current context is so you can ask the right questions. Maybe don't ask things that are clearly outside their wheelhouse. Make sure that you don't try to explain some basic things that they are the absolute master of. Just try to figure out who you're talking to. And related to this, try to figure out what their drivers or motivators are for giving you their time. What's in it for them? Are they hoping to help the community? Are they hoping to increase their own reputation? Do they have a whole bunch of research assistants who they think that need this training? And they're really doing that in order to sort of share their wealth and their knowledge and experience. Or is it just that they're doing it out of their favor? Or do they love it? Do they just love connecting? All of these things could be true, but helping your ask, whatever you're trying to get from them or how you're trying to interact with them, will be the understanding of why they're engaging with the process. So these are the things before you go and talk to your subject matter expert who you have very limited time with. Next slide, please. When you do them, and I love that Katie said so many of these things, find out the key information on the subject that you're talking about, the subject. Who are the key bodies? Are we talking about ARDC is a great example. If you're doing training in research data skills, you probably have to understand that ARDC is an important thing. All of the NCRIS facilities, all of the different bodies that exist in this space, Research Data Alliance, these types of bodies are important to understand. And if you don't, hopefully an SME can give you that little quick heads up of like, here's the big players in the space. That's the first thing. Second thing, what are the key sources of best practice? What are the big frameworks? What are the big understandings of the area? What are the approaches? We're in research data. If you didn't know FAIR, you probably need someone to hip you to that. CARE principles, 5 safes, whatever it is that you're going to look at relevant to the topic, can you get that from them? Thirdly, what are the main problems in this? What are the things that the attendees are likely to come and sort of say, I just can't do this, or this is really the thing that we're all facing, and an SME can hopefully give you that. Fourthly, what are the main drivers and motivators for the attendees? What are they coming here in a broader hope to solve? And then fourthly, I think, well, the other topic here, and Katie mentioned this, who else can help me, is something that's really useful to ask an SME. Can you link me in with anyone? Do you have research assistants? Do you have some colleagues? Do you have someone who's maybe an ECR or something who would love to get involved in this space? So all of these things are things that you can possibly ask an SME. I haven't had a chance to look in the chat, but there's lots of things coming up here. Thanks, Liz, Carpentries. Yep. Katie. Thank you very much, Katie. Yes, 10 simple rules, Merian. Sorry, I butchered that name so badly. Sarah says, thank you. Sarah's a master trainer. Melissa's a master trainer. Philip's a master trainer as well. So I guess also it's probably interesting to note that some of the people in this chat and on this very call are excellent examples of people who have a wealth of training experience. Some do have their own special area of disciplinary expertise, but everyone here is probably closer to you than maybe to a level 90 Jedi master at these things. And we all get asked to do these things constantly. So I guess we all started here somewhere, and you can too. So I think that's me, and I think someone might have accidentally unmuted.
Awesome. Thank you so much, John. That's fantastic. So our final panel member is Merian Lovelace-Tozer. So Merian has over 10 years experience in education, and she's committed to making an impact through empowering Australian research communities with a competitive advantage. Merian delivers training and resources that support researchers to effectively leverage ARDC services. The floor is yours, Merian.
Thank you very much, Amany. And thanks, Katie and John. It's a pleasure to be here with an excellent group of people and trainers. My name is relatively unique, so that means it's relatively easy to find me, and I'm happy to be joining all of you today. I'll briefly share some of my background or experience in teaching and training. So on the next slide, I've put together a chart. I don't expect you to be able to read all of this, but this is just my thought process around, well, what are some of the examples where I have been training or expected to teach a new skill? And then I was reflecting on my confidence level, essentially, my expertise, if you will, as measured by my knowledge and experience and the recency of that as I was teaching different skills and subjects over time. So I've got skills and subjects on the horizontal axis, and you'll see there are lots of ups and downs in my perceived confidence level over time. Sometimes it's not even a matter of whether I would expect to be able to teach those skills. You can see that somewhere maybe a third of the way through or a quarter of the way through, I was teaching year 5 to 6 mathematics. Now, obviously, I had taken year 5 to 6 mathematics, but I wasn't familiar with the new techniques that they were teaching at that time, and everything has changed over time. But my background is in mathematics and statistics, and I went on to do research, which involved doing some coding, which I never necessarily or didn't necessarily always learn through classes, but had to self-teach a lot of those skills, and then went on to teach those to others as well. And so I thought it would be helpful for others as well to potentially reflect a little bit on times when you've been asked to teach skills that you didn't necessarily have subject matter expertise, and I'm recognizing that a lot of times I did not, or I don't think I've ever reached full confidence or been a true expert necessarily in skills. I can see that some people are saying it looks familiar, and yes, the skills and subjects are sort of over time. And so you can see that during a period when I was teaching university mathematics and also a researcher in those skills, I was more confident in that. But then a lot of times when I've been teaching coding skills, I was less confident, or I was learning as I was teaching as well. So on the next slide, I've also thought about, I came up with this visualization. I was thinking about the differences between being a trainer and being a subject matter expert, the similarities, and also the advantages of being on each end and the challenges that people face. So this is a pseudo Venn diagram. It's not really a Venn diagram. It's more blurred edges and just looking at things on different sides. So as a trainer, you can apply teaching strategies and develop engaging activities and assessments. So you've got experience making things easy for people to learn and putting things in an environment where people can learn things non-intimidating. So welcoming people in and people feel like they can learn in that environment. On the far end, a challenge that a trainer will face is that they won't have all of the answers. And so you can admit that you don't have the answers, and that can be, as I think has been covered a little bit already, it can be a great opportunity to learn with a group and to address different questions that come up together, not just giving the answer, but use that as a learning experience. On the other end, as a subject matter expert, you can have years of experience and a really deep understanding of a specific topic. This can result in expert blindness, or in the carpentry, as we call it, an expert awareness gap, which is a challenge that subject matter experts who are trying to deliver training can face. One of the pros is also that they know good practice and they can share that with new users, and so that they can help people as they're learning a skill. I'm not keeping track of the chat at the moment, so I'll read that later. But in the middle of those two, so the sort of golden, well, in this case, green area, this is where you can use a lot of the advantages of both sides. So even if you're not a complete expert or don't have a lot of experience training, being able to explain concepts at an appropriate level for beginners is excellent. If you're able to share tips, that would be great. And another excellent thing is being able to share stories, examples, and use cases. So having a little bit of experience or drawing from someone who does have experience, stealing their stories or copying down their stories to reshare, so that you can go through examples and share outputs or potential motivation for using the skill or the subject area that you're training or teaching. So those are my thoughts. I'm keen to get on to some questions and discussion with the rest of the group. And so I'll pass back to Amany, and we can start some question time.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Merian. And thank you to panelists for your insights. It was fantastic discussion. But now we'll move on to questions. So I'll start off with some of the questions that we received during registration, but we'll keep this as an open forum. And if you have any questions that you want to ask related to any of the questions that we've asked here, feel free to pop them in the chat. We'll try and monitor them as best that we can, or you can raise your hand if you prefer to speak. But I'll get on to some of the pre-registered questions. So the first one I've got is, if you're delivering the training as well as developing it, how do you tackle the curly questions from learners who assume that you are the SME? Who wants to go first?
I can take this one.
Mm-hmm.
I like to work with people who are in the room. Someone might in the group might know a little bit more than the person who's asking the question. So I tend to work on sort of a group facilitation to see if we can tease it out. So if I really don't know when nobody else knows, then we can look at some sort of information searching strategies. And I guess that's the benefit in having been through librarian training and worked as a reference and research librarian in an academic space, is that we can look at developing people's strategy if you've got time, right? So, but there have been things where I just don't know. And I say, hey, I've got no idea, but I'm interested to go to other people to find it out, and I'm going to come back to you. And I always follow up. So send the participants an email with the things that I've been able to find out.
I'll jump in after Katie there. I think all of those are great suggestions. Aidan's got some great suggestions, and Kit had some in the chat earlier on. Check out those. But I think also it's important to understand in the research space, you're dealing with people who are doing something that's possibly never been done before, because they're researchers, they're trying to discover something new. So they're highly likely to encounter a brand new problem and do or look at old problems in a brand new way. So at some point, we are going to get guaranteed to a point where you won't know how to do it because it's never been done. No matter how much of an expert you would be, they're dealing with something new. And so you can have a confidence in saying, at some point, I'm going to be able to say, I don't know. And it's possible, really, that most people wouldn't know, even if you were an SME. And then I think Aiden has sort of said, and Katie's also said, like, the information seeking piece is like, go look at Substack, go look at Reddit, go look at documentation. It might be in there somewhere, and you can't possibly have all of this in your head.
I couldn't
Exactly.
agree more with Katie and John's answers there. I'll add a little bit related to that, which comes up a lot when you're teaching coding or programming specifically. So I intentionally, and similar to questions coming up, but errors and mistakes will come up. Typos, or you've missed a parentheses, and the code doesn't run, something will happen. And so I actually intentionally will make at least one mistake. I'll write that into my training and work through as a team, and then obviously others will come up naturally, but we'll work through that together with the learners and use it as an opportunity to practice troubleshooting. Because one thing that I'll share is that I can't teach you everything you'll ever want to know about this subject matter or skill, but one of the most valuable things that I can teach is how to find the answers when you're in the wild and trying to do that thing on your own and you come across a hurdle. And so we demonstrate how we can go about troubleshooting or solving errors. Similarly, how would you go about finding the answer to a question that I, as the trainer, don't know, or well, it's coming up for a reason? So we can go through and what are good websites to search, or places or communities that you can access, and sharing some of those tips and resources and methods of finding the answers to your questions is a super important, helpful teaching technique or strategy to use in training.
Very true. That's great. Thanks, guys. So next question. This might be a bit harder, a bit more personal, but I think it's also important. What has been a difficult lesson in your experience? I'm sure we've had a few of them.
I'll jump in. I'll jump in with one straight away. What you are asked to teach or what you're told to teach by organization is not what learners necessarily want or need to learn. That was a huge one, where someone up the chain with very good intentions and a reasonable understanding of what needs to happen tells you, can you do a module on this? Can you do a session on this? We need to teach researchers how to do this. And you deliver it, and it's an absolute U-turn when the attendees will sort of say, yeah, that's wonderful that you're trying to teach me how to do this. And I can see how you've prepared these things, but really, could you help me with this thing? And everyone goes, yeah, could you help me as well? And I think that that's important to understand, that what you want to teach or what you think is important, what someone else your boss thinks is important, is not necessarily what the learners want to learn. So I've encountered that in a frustrating way a couple of times, where you've done a lot of work to prepare a session and you're like, yeah, this is gonna be so useful. And it's just sort of like, we don't want to learn any of that. We've got these other much more immediate problems that we hope you can help us with. So that would be one.
Yeah, that is a good one.
My difficult lesson to learn, and it ties into a point that Philippa made in the chat, was around bringing in the experts from the vendors. So being a new trainer at a vendor and being expected to be that expert. So my difficult lesson was being underprepared. And because there was so much that I had to learn. And really, really, really early on, it was a really difficult lesson to learn. I was underprepared, and I had to put in way more time than I thought I needed to, because I needed to learn I needed to learn all the different modules. Yeah, it was massive, and it was hard. It was a hard message to take as well, but I had to, because I had to become that expert, and it needed time.
On that, one thing that I found really useful, and anyone can search for it, knowledge mapping from nothing is a process that I found really useful to ensure that I have a reasonable understanding of whatever the topic is. Just sitting down with literally a piece of paper or a mirror or whatever you want to use for your mind mapping, and starting from there and making sure you understand the topic, the main concerns, the main theories, the main approaches, the main whatever it is, and doing it from your head. If you can do that at a relatively easy process, level of execution, then you're probably going to feel much more confident. But if you start doing that mind map and you start hitting roadblocks of going, I really don't know anything about this, and I know it's important, that's probably an indicator that you can start looking into that. And doing that from scratch on a piece of paper without having to search for anything is a good way to self-test.
Great advice, guys. Just moving on, just because I'm a bit mindful of the time, I wanted to open it up to the participants. If anyone has any questions that they would like to ask our panel members, feel free to, if you have any questions, feel free to write them in the chat or raise your hand and unmute and you can speak. If not, I can just go back to the pre-registered questions. We do have quite a few.
I would also say just quickly, for anyone here who is new in this space, the number of people on this call who have an insane amount of training experience is gigantic. So put something in the chat, feel free to, I'm assuming we can also reach out to each other, but when I was new to the community, I didn't quite recognize all the names, but now that I've been in the community for a while, I can tell you that the people who are here in the chat have a lot of experience.
Yes. And Melissa has just written, don't work alone, get feedback, advice before you deliver the training, which is so true. I say this a lot as well. Do not train in isolation. It's always good to get as many ideas on board as possible. And she also said, feel free to reach out to me too. So thank you so much for that, Melissa.
I love the tip, and I'd be interested to hear other tips that people in the room have to share. I'm going to add on to Melissa's tip that don't just get advice before delivering training, but also afterwards. And I use that as an opportunity to ask the questions that I didn't know the answers to during training as well. But when you do have an opportunity to sit down with a subject matter expert or someone who does have knowledge, my tip is to ask them if they can give you a demonstration, like walk through their practice, and ask if you can record it. That has helped me so much because I've watched back the recording and I've asked so many questions during a short session of them walking me through something. And so then I ask every single question I can think of, and then I've got that all in the recording, and then I can look back on that as well. That's really helpful with training. And obviously asking them to share stories, challenges, and their own tips for using the skill or the subject matter.
As well as that, another thing you can do is shadow somebody when they are delivering on the same topic. And that actually really works well for everybody involved, because then you have a bit of a double act going and you can bring different experiences to the conversation, especially online, as a little bit more dynamic as well.
100%. That's excellent, Melissa. Thank you.
Yeah, this is all great. We're getting a lot of really great tips in the chat from Kit. Test bunnies, find a critical friend to run through you before live delivery, which is what Merian was just saying. I think that's fantastic advice as well. Feedback from participants, if possible. Yes, this is what we're trying to do here as well. But yeah, feedback from participants, because you never really know how you appear, and the best person to ask is the learner. And from Ankit, pre and post feedback is always great analytics to have for course development. Fantastic. These are all great advice. And now we're coming to time soon. So, was that you, John?
Yeah, there was a question from Anastasia. How do you cater materials to an audience with very different knowledge level? If both a newbie and an expert attend this training hoping to learn something, There's a couple of ways that I've done that before is, I don't know, Aidan quite accurately said, no one reads the course description or the module description, but making sure at some point you sort of say, this is a beginner level module. These are learning outcomes are probably still always going to be useful no matter what level you're training at. And so making it clear to someone who's showing up what they can expect to get out of it. But it's, yeah, that one is really difficult. Maybe structuring it in a longer module. So it's a 2-hour session. The first is the introduction. The second half is the intermediate advanced. That's the way that I've done it before. But yeah, it's a tricky one. I think Adeline says it's tricky as well.
And I've got something in that space as well. So there are differences in if you're doing something like hands-on training, where you might have people doing practical tasks, and compared to a more theoretical presentation. And it also depends on the size of the group. So if you have people in there who maybe haven't read what it is and are expecting something deeper, but it is hands-on, and it's a beginner level, I have actually asked them if they also wouldn't mind sharing their expertise or helping out by being a bit of a mentor or a coach in the room with practical hands-on training, because then they can share the things that they know. And then I have also maybe said, hey, everybody who is at an earlier level, I'm going to dig into something that's a bit more advanced, and then make sure that it's okay that they don't need to pay attention to this bit. And so I'm giving those people something, but maybe leave it until at the end of it. So if it's practical hands-on, or if you make sure you've got through all of your core objectives first, and then you can give the people who are wanting something more that deeper dive, or book in an advanced session with them for another time.
Mm.
Don't let them derail your set objectives for the people who are there for something beginner.
Yep. No, that's great advice. I think we're coming to time soon. I could have you guys talking about this for hours, but we're going to have to wrap it up. If you do have any more questions, feel free to contact us, and we'll see if we can respond to you privately if that's what you prefer. But just to wrap up, thank you all for attending. Thank you, panel members, for your insights. It's always fantastic, and we're always happy to receive feedback. As it says on the slide, it helps us identify the most relevant and engaging topics, and we also welcome your recommendations. And someone, I think, hopefully will put the link in the Zoom chat for feedback, and we'll also be replying to everyone, and we'll send you the link as well. Next slide, please. Also, just wanted to mention that the ARDC is co-hosting the International Data Week on behalf of RDA, CoData and WDS. And Merian and I will actually be presenting on that journal article that John was talking about earlier. And he's also on that author list as well. And it will be held in Brisbane from the 13th to 16th of October. Next slide, please. And also, if you're interested, around the same time, we have our annual Skills Summit, and it will also be in Brisbane around the 20th of October. It's a free in-person event, and it's a great way to connect with all the digital research skills leaders to collaborate and network. Next slide. And next month's session will be on hiatus, as there is a lot happening in October. But our next session in November will be about future planning for the trainer community. So please keep an eye open for any invitations to that session. Next slide, final slide. And here are our contact details if you have any questions. And thank you, panel members. Thank you all for listening, and I hope everyone has a fantastic day. Thanks all.
Thanks for organising, Amany and Skills team.
No worries.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you very much, and thanks everyone for coming.